Hey, welcome back everybody. This is going to be episode 4 in the series, and we're going to look at the new kitchen that I did. You can jump forward to the 6-minute mark if you just want to get straight into that. But before that, we're going to do a recap, kind of show me building the base up to that point. I've clipped together some stuff to streamline it, and then I can kind of show you some of the techniques and the things that I did along the way. So first off here, I'm using my multi-grid technique. You can go look at that video if you need a better dive into that. But so I'm going to set a separate grid right here to get my next platform at a different height, and I'm gonna throw my foundation around for that. So there's the foundation, and now I'm gonna throw some floors on there, and we'll keep watching that as a build, and then I'll kind of point out a few things here and there as we go. But looking at the patch notes last night, man, I have to say that was a little bit disappointing. They're talking about that they fixed the pouch weight, like the exploit or bug or whatever it was on the pouches, and having the pouches remove the weight when you used them was literally the coolest thing about the pouches. So yeah, that's disappointing, but it is what it is. They got to fix the game and update it and everything. If that's not the way it was intended, that's what it is. But at least they're giving us a workshop flashlight next week. That's kind of cool. Stick around, because when we get up to the kitchen area, I'm going to show you how I make countertops and stuff like that with the multi-grid technique. Looking back here at the base, I'm going to throw some walls in, and then I need to throw the ceiling on, and at this point I've got this part of the structure built, but I need to rerun my ceiling support across right here since I've widened the room, and get rid of the temporary support that kind of runs through the glass. It's just an eyesore. So I'm going to throw this in. At some point later, if I want to swap out the material, I can just use the hammer to kind of change which beam, because the ones that go down through the glass over here, I'm going to change them to the reinforced glass beams so that they kind of match that glass and look clean. I don't like the big bulky limestone or the column going down through the corners of my glass. Just kind of ruins that clean look. So I could have kept on building on the base, but I wanted to go ahead and throw in my half walls, kind of see what the room looked like. So that's where I would put my shelf in. And then this right here is going to be for the hanging block that I put up in the ceiling. And a lot of people were asking in the comments in the last video about the crafting area, like how big it was. So the room itself is a 6x7, and then this hanging section there that I'm putting up there now is a 2x3. And if you look in my video, I'm only using 3 sides of the room for the perimeter of the room because I have it opened up. So you can condense that down and probably make it a little bit tighter. And I do have multiple tables and stuff as well. But now that that's up there and you trim it all out, looks good. If you want to see more of that, head over to that video there and you can check that out. I'll show you a little bit more in a second of how I line everything up for that room. But before I can do any of that, I need to close the room in. So I continued the grid from the front through into this section. And when you get good at lining up your multi-grid techniques, you'll be able to continue your grids. You won't have to keep starting them over and over, because the linear path will stay straight and nice and square. And then I'm going to throw me a little bit of little walls down in there to give it some depth, some color. And then for my outside walls here, you'll notice that I'm staying with the original walls over to the right, the height of those, so that they all snap together. My roof comes across and closes it in. I won't have any issues with storm exposure. And here you go. Here I'm using the hammer to swap out those beams to the black ones so they're not as noticeable. And then, yeah, let's get these right here too. Looks straight out. Yeah, it looks way cleaner. And then right here, this is something, check this out. This is something y'all probably never even noticed when you would see my video, but see how the steps do that right there on a double door, and they kind of have steps running into the wall? Really bothers me. So I'm going to make my own set of steps right in the center. I'm going to show you how I do this. So I'm going to pop one in there because it's floating, and I've got to see where the bottom of that one is, and then adjust my height, adjust my placement away from it. So once I adjust that up just a little bit higher than the bottom step down there, because I want this one to go higher than the ones that snap in. They're a little low, but now check that out. That looks centered in the front of the walkway like it should. Most people won't ever notice that I've done that, but just a lot of those things that make the base flow well. And then this right here is because of storm exposure. So I'm showing you the big open areas in my other bases, and this one here too, the little half walls hanging in the ceiling there, that stops the scan of where it tries to scan out through the big open area. And even though you'll have the base closed all in, you'll start having storm exposure inside and your stuff will start breaking. So I use the technique of hanging those little half walls down so I can keep the area nice and open, but it kind of cuts that scan off. Now, I was talking about the layout of my crafting tables, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I started with the fabricator here, and I lined those up, and then I put the cabinets behind it, and then that's kind of how I started. But if you can go into the video and kind of make sense of where I set the tables and how I did that. But let's get into the kitchen. So last time you saw it was like that. So now I'm going to throw in the stuff. I mean, none of this is too technical right here. It's just stuff that you pop down so you can kind of rearrange it however you want. But when you get into the countertops, you notice how you can't set stuff on most of them. There's some you can, and then for some reason, some of them will bug out. Like you can set something on that one, you can set something on this stove, but you can't set something on the stove that's beside it. But that's the reason that I make these countertops and stuff, so that I can decorate my kitchen up. So I'm going to go through a few variations here. I'm showing you my trial and error. I figured out the height that I wanted right there, and then the depth of where I wanted them. And the way I did that was I did my multi-grid, and I popped in a new beam right here. And then once I got the height right, after a few tests and the angle and all that stuff just right, I see that I've got it lined up. I really like the depth of that. It almost merged into the other countertop. Perfect. But this is going to go through a few variations here, so let's just watch it and I'll kind of talk you through some of it. I'm going to hide my supports now, so on the end of the counter you won't see the beams anymore. These supports are just going to go straight down through the countertops, and you won't see them anymore. A little quarter piece right here on the end. Fill that in. And then that other one that's stuck up down there on the end, that's going to be for my upper cabinets. So at least the first test height of the upper cabinet. So now that I got my supports in, I can remove the ones on the end. You don't have to see those anymore, and it just looks like it's floating there. But I forgot a couple things that I wanted to put in here. That looks cool how I merged it into the sink. I'm going to change the color of it to black so that it matches the countertop in a second, and it's going to go through a couple more variations. So now I've got two different heights tested out right there for my upper cabinets. The bottom one was the first one that I made. The top one was the second one, because the bottom one I noticed was in my face and I couldn't see through it that well. So I'm going to go with the upper one, and then I moved the deep freezers out a little bit and put the black countertop in there, and I put a material processor and the salt and bench in there. And if you look around now, threw all my decorations in there, kind of filled it in, got me a shotgun above the sink in case, you know, shit pops off when you're in there cooking. And I just dressed it up. I got some of the stuff there. It made me a vent hood with the vents, some gas lines, my power boxes and stuff like that, just to kind of to dress it up. I got my bear up there with the honey on the fridge. There's my shotgun. So yeah, I just tried to dress it up and make it look cool and actually be functional at the same time. Got our cakes there so we can grab a couple of them on the way out and go beat some boss's ass. Yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. You want to see more of the building on the next phases. It is very hard to show you all of my building though, because I build something, I tear it down, and I rebuild it, and tear it down, rebuild it till I get something that I really like. But thanks again. Hit the like button, and I'll be seeing you in episode 5 real soon. But I have a couple other videos I think I'm going to throw out between that. I've got one that I get tears running down my face laughing at. It's so damn funny. So hopefully I'll get that one to you soon. All right, everybody. Thanks again. See you in the next one.